Welcome back to our channel. It's another day in Amsterdam, and boy, did we fit in a lot this day. We did 2 half-day tours, and I can't wait to show you how this day went. We started our day by walking to the Van Gogh Museum from our hotel, and we did this so that we could catch breakfast along the way, and it was only a 30-minute walk. So we figured when we sat down and ate breakfast, it wouldn't be too bad, and we didn't really feel the need to pay for transportation to get us there when we did want to walk the city and find something to eat. And it was really a pretty walk. Once we arrived at the Van Gogh Museum, we were like an hour early, but we did that on purpose. One, because we didn't know how long it was going to take us to eat, and two, we weren't really sure about the meeting location, and we really got lucky because the meeting location was not very clear. It does give you a specific address, but the buildings aren't really labeled, and it kind of plops you down on this pretty bench, and it says words on Viator's app with where you're supposed to meet, but it was still very confusing. Once we found other people that were in our small group tour with us, we knew that we could relax, and we got lucky because it was a market day. It is not always a market day over there because we did head back to the square on another day to try and do some shopping, and it was gone. We learned that the market is not in the museum square every single day. So if you're going to go, I would suggest you look and try and book tours for the museum the same day that the market's there. I'm sure it was a tourist trap, but it was one I was happy to get trapped in because it had all kind of little souvenirs and trinkets, and you could smell the food cooking and see local artists that aren't well known or famous, and I thought it was a really sweet little spot. So once it was time for us to head into the museum, we went into the back door because it was a private small group tour, and that worked out anyways because the museum does not allow you to carry any kind of liquids into the museum itself. They told us you either had to put them in your backpack and keep them there, or you had to check them at the desk. And some people did choose to check their drinks and some didn't. 2 little girls kept their water and kept running to the corner to take a sip of water, and no one ever said anything. So I don't think it's super strict. I think they just don't want you openly eating and drinking near the art. At the exit, which is where we entered, there is a replica of a painting that Van Gogh did. And I don't always take part in these things. Maybe I do. But anyways, I wanted to touch it because you could, and you can actually feel how thick the layers are from the paint and to see how much paint it actually does take to create some of these artworks. As you go through the museum, it's laid out in a way that I don't know that you actually need to take a tour of. It's laid out in a chronological order of his life, and it tells you on the walls his struggles and his development and his art and his relationships and how they're all combined. But if you're trying to get through the whole museum in half a day, you probably do need it to be guided so you know where to focus your attention at, because it is a large museum. We did a small group tour of this because we're not really big into art, but we were like, it's a famous Dutch artist and you're in Amsterdam, so you have to go. And we're glad that we did go. We're not saying don't go. And the people that we were with, there were some that were truly interested in certain paintings and truly interested in his styles or his history or whatever. So for them, they thoroughly enjoyed it. But for me personally, I felt like I drug it out a little bit because I want to hear the details of the stories you don't hear in a history book. And we got some of those, but that's more what I'm interested in. It's the person behind the art. But it was still fine. So afterwards, you have the ticket, so you can stay in the museum all day if you want, because it is only a half a day and you really could spend all day here. We decided to walk around a little bit and look at some of the other less famous paintings because while the famous paintings are nice, we don't really know much about it to contribute to those or whatever. And once we saw it, we saw it. So we just wanted to see some of the lesser known paintings. And we did find one that we really liked. So we bought a replica of it, much larger than the one that was in the museum, the actual one. to go into our house. It's called Crab on Its Back, but honestly, the one in the museum might be 8 by 10 or so. It was small, but ours is slightly bigger so it doesn't get lost on the walls. We kind of got to get a laugh out of it. And it's a good memory, even though we're not like huge into art. And other people see it and they're like, why Crab on Its Back? And we're like, oh, Van Gogh painted that. That's a replica. So it was a nice museum. Afterwards, we did like kind of walk around the square again until it was time to head to our next half-day tour. And that half-day tour was also supposed to be a small group tour, but we were the only ones that booked it, so it turned into a private tour. It was the Anne Frank and Jewish History guided tour. And we got lucky that this was a private tour, because this is a tour that could get really heavy really quick. And even when trying to figure out how to talk about it on camera, it is a sensitive subject, and people did die, and people were personally touched. And when you're there, it's beyond a textbook, or it's beyond something that happened somewhere else or to someone else. So it does take a moment. And if I would have one suggestion, it would be to take this tour as a private tour. But our luck has to run out somewheres, right? And here it is. I was so bummed, because it says Anne Frank tour. I'm thinking, and the way it's described, is that you're going into where Anne Frank hid out. No, you do not. You pass by the building, but you do not go inside. And I even brought that up to our guide. I was like, I thought we were going in. And he's like, a lot of people do. So it is deceiving, and they know that it's deceiving the way that it's written. He goes, but don't worry. You wouldn't want to go in anyways, because it's not much to see. There's a lot of people and they push you through it. But I was still like mad a little bit. So I was looking up to see if we could get tickets in. They sell out months in advance. We couldn't get in even if we wanted to. You couldn't pay a top dollar or premium dollar to get last minute tickets. You cannot get in if you do not buy these tickets in advance. So I was pretty upset. That being said, we started the tour. We did walk around to see this wall that was created of everyone's name on it that they had. And they even still had some bricks that didn't have anything on them yet, in case like more information came up and someone needed to be added to the wall. And it was those that died or were murdered, or during this time span. And it kind of caught me off guard, because our guide was like, oh, this word means years. And then we come across another one, and he's like, this word means months. And I was like, oh, that's really sad. I'm a mom of 2 boys. Like, I couldn't imagine losing my boys. And then I come across another word, and I'm like, what is this word? And he was like, days. They literally were killing babies that were days old. This is where I get at where it can get deep. And the whole tour is that way. Like, you're constantly finding out information that just stabs at your heart. So after we leave this monument area, we start walking down the streets, and we learned that the area that we're in was once a Jewish community. You really wouldn't know that if you didn't know what to look for, because it just looks like any other area in Amsterdam now. It's pretty, and you see the water and the canals and the flowers, but it's the little things that I think you walk by that the city has done to kind of like document this time in history. And I'll show you videos and pictures of it, but it's like one of the things was like little name plaques, and they were maybe a little bit bigger than like a business card. In front of different homes, it would have like the names of the people who lived there that were taken. It's sad, but at the same time, you can appreciate them trying to pay tribute to these people. But it wasn't all sad stories. There were stories of where people hid out that you don't know about, like in the zoo or in different locations. And you hear stories of people rescuing children or whole families escaping, and where they hid and how the routes were created. And you get to see a different side of it. And it showed you where the families had to go to get their stars and how all of it played out. And you see the old monument that was there, but it's like in a dog park. I guess the community rose up and was like, no, we deserve more. And so that's why you have more of the monuments now. But this was a very educational tour, and the city was nice to walk around, and you get to see how they've rebuilt it and how they're trying to give back to the community. But I really would tell you, if you're gonna do this tour, to do it by yourself, because you get in all this information, and everybody processes life different. But just so that you and your family can go through this process in your way, I would say take a private tour. Once this was over, we did decide to walk back to our hotel so we could hit some shops and see some more of the city, and we'll get to explore together later. So make sure you watch our videos that I've already posted and keep tuned so you can see the ones that are yet to come. Make sure to like and subscribe.